Tonight we're going to continue our discussion on adding signed rational numbers. Last night we focused on fractions. Tonight we're going to focus on decimals. So our learning objective for this evening is I can add signed decimals using number lines and the rules for addition of integers. We're realizing once we have those rules for our addition of integers, we can apply them to signed fractions. We can also apply them to signed decimals. Let's take a look at the first example using a number line model. So if we have negative 0.75 to start, I'd go from 0 and move over to negative 0.75. If I'm adding a negative on the number line, you know you want to move left. How much further left am I going to move? I'm going to move another 0.5 left. What's in between each of these spaces? Well, that's 0.25, another 0.25, another 0.25, another 0.25, another 0.25. So if I'm moving left 0.5, that's moving left 0.25 and another 0.25. 0.5 is the same as 0.50. You can think of that as 50 cents. That's 25 cents and another 25 cents. So I'm just going to move left 25 cents, another 25 cents. That's going to get us to negative 1.25 on the number line. That's like you lose 75 cents, you lose 50 cents more. How much money have you lost? You've lost $1.25 and you're wandering around trying to find it so you can buy some lunch. Let's try that same example without using a number line. We know we better end up at a negative 1.25. The number line helped us see that. Now we're going to not use a number line, use our rules for adding signed numbers and come up with the same answer. So the first step we know is circle the sign that goes with the number. So that first number has a negative sign right in front of it. That second number also has a negative sign right in front of it. Are the signs the same or are the signs different? Well, you're noticing in front of this one's a negative. In front of this one's a negative. Signs are the same. I'm going to find the sum. So off to the side, I need to find the sum of 0.75 and 0.5. You're going to notice that I line up my decimal points. This is a quick reminder of how we need to work with decimals. You always have to line up those decimal points. What can I put after that 5? Well, I can put a 0. So then I do 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 5 is 12, put down a 2, carry a 1, 1 plus 0 is 1, bring down that decimal point. So the sum of those two numbers is 1.25. Signs are the same, we found the sum. You remember the sum means add those numbers together. Then you ask yourself, do I have more negatives or more positives? Well, that first number I had negative, and the second number was negative. So that's almost like a trick question. You only have negatives, so therefore your answer needs to be negative. So the final answer is a negative 1.25. Here's our scratch work off to the side to help us arrive at that answer. Let's try another one. Find the following sum. Find the following sum using a number line model. That word is doesn't belong there. Find the following sum using a number line model. So negative 0.7. This number line is broken into tenths because that's like 7 tenths. So that's 0.1, negative 0.2, negative 0.3, negative 0.4, negative 0.5, negative 0.6, negative 0.7, negative 0.8, negative 0.9, and then negative 1. So this is broken into tenths. So that's negative 7 tenths plus 2 tenths. So first of all, I start at 0 and I go over to negative 7 tenths. Let's see if that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So we went over to negative 7 tenths. We're adding a positive. If you're adding a positive, you know you have to move back to the right. How much back to the right? 2 tenths. So now I just go 1, 2 places back, and that ends me up at negative 0.5. Oh, that's ugly. Negative 0.5. Hopefully you can see that point is right between 0 and negative 1. That answer is going to be a negative 0.5. Let's do that same example without a number line, because very soon I'm going to be moving away from number lines and really trying to just focus on using the rules that we're given. You can always draw a number line for yourself, but really as you move on in life, adults deal with positives and negatives all the time. If you're talking about temperature, you're going to have positives and negatives. Our checking accounts, every time we deposit money, we're adding money into our checking account. Every time we write out a check or withdraw money, then we're putting a negative there. So we have to deal with positives and negatives all the time. And as adults, we don't use number lines all the time. So I'm going to fall back on the rules. Let's use our rules for adding signed numbers to solve the same problem. Negative 0.7 plus 0.2. Circle the sign that goes with the number. So you circle the number and the sign directly in front of that number. You'll see that 0.2. I mean, it does have that addition sign there, but if no sign is actually attached to that 0.2, you can put a plus sign there. Are the signs the same or are the signs different? Well, in front of this number is a negative sign. In front of this number, this is a positive sign. So those signs are different. You're going to want to find the difference. So how do we find the difference? The difference means subtract. So we're going to take 0.7 and subtract off 0.2, lining up our decimal points. 7 minus 2 is 5. Bring down our decimal point, bring down our 0. Then you have to say, what? Do I have more positives or do I have more negatives? I have negative 7/10. So there's negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths and only positive 2/10. Positive and negative, each pair will zero each other out. I definitely have more negatives left over. How many negatives? I have negative 5. 5 what? Negative 5/10. So that's how I know my answer will definitely be negative. I had more negatives. You had more negatives, your answer is going to have to be negative. Those are the rules we want to fall back on every single time we try to add signed numbers, whether we're talking about integers, fractions, or decimals. Let's use our rules for adding signed numbers to solve the following problem. If you need to go ahead and to draw a number line, go for it. I'm going to take 1.5 plus a negative 2.5. And what I'm going to do is circle the signs that go with the number. So as I circle the sign right in front that goes with the number, I say, well, in front of my 1.5, I don't have a sign. That means I assume that it's positive. Then I ask myself, are those signs the same or are those signs different? I say, well, this one's a positive. That's positive. Oops, positive. That's ugly. And this one is negative. Okay, those signs are definitely different. I'm going to want to find the difference. So I have to find the difference, which means I'm going to subtract. If the signs are different, one's positive, one's negative, you're going to find the difference. So I'm going to take 2.5, line up my decimal points, and subtract off 1.5. The signs were different. I find the difference. 5 minus 5 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1. So this is going to be 1.0 or just 1. Then I have to decide, do I have more positives and negatives? Well, I have 1.5 positives. I have 2.5 negatives. What do I have more of? Oh, I have more negatives. So my final answer must be negative, and this was my scratch work off to the side to show me that. You have more negatives, your answer is absolutely going to be negative. Negative 2.5 is a quote-unquote larger number than 1.5. Of course, we know that negative 2.5 is in reality smaller than 1.5, but we just want to know quote-unquote what we have more of. You have 2.5 negatives and you only have 1.5 positives. Your answer's got to be negative. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to add the following signed rational numbers and be ready to share the results in class tomorrow. In our survey of what you like and don't like about the video, some of you actually asked, leave us with some extra problems to try on our own so that we know we can do it without the teacher's solution walking us through. So I'd like you to try these 3 problems and bring them to class tomorrow ready to share. Just going to use your rules. Circle the sign that goes with the number. The signs are the same, find the sum, keep the sign. Signs are different, find the difference, keep what you have, quote unquote, more of. Have a good night.